The unspoken reality of the class war is that it is not primarily fought with laws, taxes, or interest rates, but with chemistry, specifically the biological sabotage of the working class through the mass distribution of industrial nutritional sludge that disguises itself as food. You must look at the physical state of the population to see the truth that the soft men deny. The poor are not just broke, they are biologically bankrupt, trapped in a state of permanent crushing exhaustion that renders them incapable of the high-output cognitive violence required to escape their station. The architect understands that your bank account is a direct lagging indicator of your mitochondrial function. If your cells cannot produce energy efficiently, your brain cannot produce the complex strategic thoughts necessary to generate wealth, effectively trapping you in a poverty loop that is enforced not by police, but by your own plummeting blood sugar. The system has engineered a food supply that is calorie-dense but nutrient-void, designed to keep the population fed enough to work the levers of the machine, but too sedated, inflamed, and lethargic to ever climb out of the pit. Walk into a discount supermarket and then into an elite private gym, and you are looking at two different biological species. One is swollen, gray, and moving through a fog of inflammation, while the other is lean, sharp, and vibrating with aggressive vitality. This is not an accident. It is the result of a chemical castration of the masses via high-fructose corn syrup, seed oils, and processed grains that act as metabolic tranquilizers. You must internalize the concept of cognitive bandwidth. The brain is the most energy-expensive organ in the body, consuming 20% of your metabolic output despite being only 2% of your mass. When you feed this engine with the standard American diet, a toxic slurry of vegetable oils that inflame your neural pathways and refined sugars that send your insulin spiking and crashing like a volatile penny stock, you are effectively putting sand in the gas tank of a Ferrari. The soft man starts his day with a bagel and a sugary coffee, creating a massive glucose spike that feels like energy for 40 minutes, followed inevitably by a catastrophic insulin crash that leaves him shaking, foggy, and irritable by 11 a.m. In this state of hypoglycemia, the prefrontal cortex, the CEO of the brain responsible for long-term planning, impulse control, and emotional regulation, goes offline, and the primitive lizard brain takes over, demanding quick energy and safety. A man in a sugar crash cannot design a 5-year business plan. He can only think about where his next snack is coming from or how soon he can take a nap. Poverty is the inability to see the future, and poor nutrition chemically blinds you to the future by trapping you in a desperate cycle of managing immediate physiological distress. You are tired because you are poisoned. You are broke because you are tired. The cheap food fallacy is the shackle that keeps the middle class poor. They believe they are being frugal by buying the $1 box of pasta, the frozen pizza, and the bulk bag of cereal, patting themselves on the back for saving money on the grocery bill. But the architect knows that this savings is the most expensive debt they will ever incur. By saving $50 a week on food, they are costing themselves millions of dollars in lost lifetime productivity. When you eat garbage, your activation energy, the mental force required to start a difficult task, to learn a new skill, or to initiate a sales call, skyrockets. Everything feels like walking through waist-deep mud. The soft man finishes his 9-to-5 job and collapses on the couch, not because he is lazy, but because his mitochondria are broken. He physically lacks the ATP, cellular energy, to work on his side hustle. The architect, fueled by organic protein, healthy fats, and micronutrients, finishes his day and still has the savage energy to build his empire for another 4 hours. This energy arbitrage is the secret weapon of the elite. They are playing the game with a full battery while you are trying to compete with a battery that drains to 20% by noon. The system wants you to be a passive consumer, and the easiest way to ensure passivity is to keep you in a postprandial coma, that heavy, sleepy feeling you get after eating a massive carbohydrate meal. A population that is asleep in front of the television is a population that is safe for the ruling class. Furthermore, we must address the micronutrient starvation that exists amidst caloric abundance. You can be obese and starving at the same time. The modern diet is stripped of magnesium, zinc, B vitamins, and omega-3 fatty acids, the precise chemical cofactors required for the production of dopamine, serotonin, and testosterone. Without these, you become apathetic, anxious, and depressed. The soft men treat these symptoms with pharmaceuticals, taking SSRIs and stimulants to force their brains to work, which is like whipping a starving horse. The architect treats the root cause. He understands that drive, ambition, and resilience are not just character traits. They are biochemical states dependent on raw materials. If you lack zinc and cholesterol, you cannot produce testosterone. If you lack testosterone, you lack the aggression to negotiate, to take risks, to dominate your sector. The scent of poverty is the scent of low testosterone and high cortisol. It is the biological signature of a prey animal. The wealthy protect their biology like a fortress because they know that in the arena of high-stakes capitalism, the man with the clearest mind and the deepest reserves of endurance wins. The soft men view food as entertainment, asking, "What do I feel like eating?" The architect views food as ammunition, asking, "What does my objective require me to consume?" You are either building your body into a weapon of war, or you are digging your grave with your teeth. The choice to eat cheap, processed sludge is the choice to remain a peasant. The second concentric circle of your physiological incarceration is the insulin prison, a metabolic state of captivity that transforms the human brain from a supercomputer capable of abstract strategy and long-term vision into a reactive, panic-driven lizard brain obsessed with immediate gratification. You must understand that insulin is not merely a hormone that regulates blood sugar. It is the master switch of energy partitioning. And when you break this switch through decades of abusing refined carbohydrates and industrial seed oils, you develop insulin resistance, which is effectively a cellular lockout where your body is swimming in energy, glucose, but your cells are starving because they refuse to open the door. The soft men walk around with ample fat stores, hundreds of thousands of calories of potential fuel, yet they are ravenously hungry and perpetually exhausted because their hormonal signaling is broken. They are like a tanker ship full of oil that has run out of gas in the engine room. This metabolic dysfunction catastrophically impacts the brain, which is the most energy-sensitive organ in your body. Leading neuroscientists are now referring to Alzheimer's and dementia as type 3 diabetes, acknowledging that when the brain becomes insulin-resistant, it literally starves to death, shrinking in volume and losing functionality. But long before you reach dementia, you suffer from the brain fog economy. This is the sensation of trying to think through a thick layer of cotton wool, the inability to hold a complex thought for more than 30 seconds, and the crushing lethargy that hits you at 2 p.m. after a carb-heavy lunch. In this state, you are functionally retarded compared to your genetic potential. You cannot learn a new language, you cannot master a new market, and you cannot outmaneuver a competitor who is running on clean, ketogenic fuel. You are bringing a dull knife to a gunfight. The economic consequences of this biological failure are devastating because wealth creation is fundamentally a function of time preference, the ability to delay immediate pleasure for a greater future reward. High insulin levels physically destroy your ability to have a low time preference. When your blood sugar crashes, reactive hypoglycemia, your brain detects a survival threat. It screams that you are dying and that you need energy now. In this state of physiological emergency, the prefrontal cortex, the seat of executive function, discipline, and planning, is overridden by the amygdala, the center of fear and impulse. You physically cannot care about your 5-year business plan when your biology is screaming for a donut. The soft man thinks he has a willpower problem. The architect knows he has a biochemistry problem. You cannot willpower your way out of a hypoglycemic crash any more than you can willpower your way out of suffocation. The system keeps you on this glucose roller coaster to keep you impulsive, reactive, and weak. A population that is hangry, hungry, and angry is a population of consumers who buy convenience food, convenience entertainment, and convenience credit. They are incapable of the stoic suffering required to build an empire because their own biology is torturing them every 3 hours. Furthermore, we must address the direct link between systemic inflammation and poverty mindset. The industrial diet causes leaky gut, where toxic food particles breach the intestinal barrier and enter the bloodstream, triggering an immune response that floods the body with cytokines. These inflammatory markers cross the blood-brain barrier and inflame the neural tissue, leading to sickness behavior, a biological program designed to make you withdraw, sleep, and preserve energy when you are ill. In the modern world, you are not sick with a virus, you are sick with a bagel. This chronic neuroinflammation manifests as depression, anxiety, apathy, and a complete lack of motivation. The soft men go to the doctor complaining of depression, and they are given SSRIs, antidepressants, which numb the symptoms but ignore the fire burning in their brain caused by their diet. The architect architect understands that motivation is not a personality trait. It is a byproduct of low inflammation and high dopamine sensitivity. If your brain is inflamed, you will feel overwhelmed by the slightest challenge. You will look at a pile of paperwork or a difficult sales call and feel a crushing sense of defeat before you even begin. This is the biological mechanism of poverty. You stay poor because you lack the biological aggression to fight the entropy of the world. You are sedated by your breakfast. The architect escapes the insulin prison by achieving metabolic flexibility. This is the ability to burn body fat for fuel seamlessly, without the jitters, the crashes, or the hunger pangs. When you transition your body to run on fat, ketones, rather than sugar, you unlock a clean-burning diesel energy that lasts for days, not hours. Ketones are a super fuel for the brain, increasing the production of BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor, which actually grows new neurons and synapses. A man in a state of deep ketosis or fasting has a mental clarity that feels like a superpower. The fog lifts, the colors get brighter, and the ability to focus becomes laser-like. He can work for 12 hours without food, making him dangerous to the competition that needs a snack break every 90 minutes. He creates a massive productivity arbitrage, while the soft men are slipping into their post-lunch coma, staring blankly at spreadsheets and checking social media to get a dopamine hit. The architect is operating at peak cognitive efficiency, closing deals and building systems. You must realize that the standard American diet is a compliance mechanism. It makes you docile, sick, and stupid. To be wealthy, you must first be biologically sovereign. You must tear down the prison walls by refusing to eat the slop that cements the bricks. You must reclaim your brain from the sugar cartel. The final and most forbidden layer of the biological class war is the systematic chemical castration of the male population, a silent genocide of masculinity that has resulted in a testosterone gap so profound that it effectively creates two distinct biological species: the high T ruling class, who possess the hormonal drive to conquer, disrupt, and build, and the low T serf class, who are chemically engineered to be anxious, risk-averse, and obedient. You must confront the terrifying statistical reality that testosterone levels in Western men have been crashing by approximately 1% per year for the last 50 years, meaning that you likely have half the hormonal profile of your grandfather at the same age. He was a man capable of storming beaches and building nations, while the modern soft man is triggered by a tweet and suffers from panic attacks when ordering a pizza. This is not an accident of evolution. It is a feature of the industrial environment. Testosterone is not merely a sex hormone. It is the biochemical driver of effort, risk tolerance, and dominance. It is the molecule that makes effort feel good. When your T levels are high, the pain of hard work is transmuted into the pleasure of progress. You seek out conflict, you welcome the heavy load, and you laugh at the odds. When your T levels are crushed, effort feels like torture. The low T male is biologically incapable of the sustained, aggressive friction required to build a business or amass a fortune. He seeks safety, he seeks consensus, and he seeks permission. He is the perfect corporate drone because he is too fearful to quit, too conflict-averse to negotiate for a raise, and too lethargic to build a competitor. The system loves him because he is safe. A population of high testosterone men is ungovernable. They will not tolerate tyranny, they will not accept illogical rules, and they will burn the village down if they are disrespected. A population of low testosterone men is a flock of sheep waiting to be sheared. You are currently living in an estrogenic ocean, a toxic environment saturated with xenoestrogens, synthetic chemicals that mimic estrogen in the body and bind to your receptors, blocking your natural testosterone production and feminizing your biology. These are found in the receipts you touch, BPA, the plastic water bottles you drink from, phthalates, the pesticides sprayed on your healthy salads, and the tap water which is recycled and filled with the pharmaceutical runoff of millions of people on birth control pills and antidepressants. The soft man drinks from the tap, heats his lunch in plastic Tupperware, washes his clothes with lavender-scented chemical sludge, and consumes soy-filled processed garbage, literally bathing his cells in castration agents every single day. He wonders why he has man boobs, gynecomastia, why he has no libido, and why he feels a vague, creeping sense of dread about the future. He is being turned into a biological eunuch. This hormonal profile creates a scarcity mindset. Estrogen is the hormone of nesting and preservation. Testosterone is the hormone of hunting and expansion. When you are estrogen dominant, you hoard, you worry, and you shrink. You cannot make the asymmetric bets we discussed earlier because your biology screams that risk is death. You stay in the mid-level management job because it feels safe, even though it is killing your soul. The architect understands that to be wealthy, you must first be a biological supremacist. You must ruthlessly eliminate these toxins from your life. You filter your water with reverse osmosis to remove the pharmaceutical soup. You banish all plastics from your kitchen using only glass and steel. You wear natural fibers. You eat meat from animals that were not injected with hormones. You lift heavy iron, not to look good on Instagram, but to force your endocrine system to adapt to stress by producing the chemicals of a warrior. This is not vanity. It is economic survival. The biological caste system is the new dividing line of the 21st century. At the top, you have the optimized elite, men who track their blood work like a balance sheet, who inject TRT, testosterone replacement therapy, if necessary to maintain the levels of a 25-year-old savage, who eat organic elk and sleep in Faraday cages. These men have the energy of nuclear reactors. They sleep for 6 hours and wake up ready to kill. They handle the stress of a $10 million lawsuit with a resting heart rate of 50. At the bottom, you have the toxic masses, men with the testosterone levels of an 80-year-old woman, obese, inflamed, anxious, and medicated. They are tired by 2 p.m. They need coffee to wake up and alcohol to fall asleep. They are incapable of physical or mental violence. In the economy of the future, the Loti man will be eaten alive. Artificial intelligence will replace the cognitive drudgery of the clerk, leaving only 2 roles for humans: the commander, who directs the AI, and the consumer, who is fed by it. To be a commander requires the biological aggression to impose your will upon the world. It requires the thumos, the spiritedness that the ancient Greeks spoke of, which is inextricably linked to your androgen status. If you do not secure your biology, no amount of book learning or mindset work will save you. You cannot outthink a broken endocrine system. You cannot hustle your way out of hypogonadism. The first step to $1 million is not a business plan. It is a blood test. You must reclaim your chemical birthright. You must become the dangerous animal you were designed to be, because the world does not respect the civilized man. It respects the civilized monster. The soft men are tired because they are dying. The architect is alive because he has refused to drink the poison.